with that, we're going to roll into discussion of training. And we are sponsoring that CPW workshop in August. The advertisements should start getting posted this coming week. Actually, I have information from Santa True for what he wants to distribute. I just hadn't given him the link yet to tie into for registration, which Cliff talked about a little bit earlier, but we will definitely be rolling into that. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was something that Santa True came up with, and it is the Christmas Performer Workshop practice deck. Now, one of the great ideas about you doing it as a deck of cards is 52 weeks in the year, 52 cards in the deck. So you have a something for each week should you choose to do it. Now, the way the format is set up is some of the things are things for you to think about and to prepare. Some of them are things to work on to practice so you're ready for performing, and some are just, what do I do if this happens? Now, I'm going to give an example, and I'm going to pass some of these around. Please give them all back. I'd love to still have the whole deck. But this one, for instance, what do you do if you have a dead phone? You're out, you got a Saturday, you got a 14-hour day. It's noon, and your phone's dead.
Not uncharged, but actually malfunctioning. Okay.
Or potentially
uncharged.
Uncharged.
You stop it.
Yep.
You just stop at 7-Eleven and pick up a new charger cord.
Well, I understand. So it is, what do you do about that? And then the note here is your phone is lost, dropped, broken, or you're on the way to a gig, and for whatever reason you can't charge it while you're in your car. So you have printed copies of your schedule with gig details, directions, client contact information. You keep that, or do you have everything in your phone? Guilty of pretty much everything being in my phone. I build a spreadsheet, but I don't print it out and take a copy with me, which is probably something I need to change.
Anything I'm hiding from my AI, I don't need to know.
Now I love this one. Stock an old-fashioned book of maps in your car, Thomas Guide. I don't even know if you can get a Thomas Guide.
At $1,200.
I remember I used to buy one every year to get the new neighborhoods that showed up in Orange County,
You get free maps at AAA.
Yeah, but there's just all the residential areas. We're still building like crazy.
Thomas is online now.
Yeah, use that phone, yeah. Carry a spare cell phone if possible. And what is it going to cost you to carry a spare phone based on what would it cost you if you lost gigs? So that's one of those, think about it. So I'm going to just take a handful here, and if you'll just take a look and pass them around. Yes?
What do you do if you're in between gigs and you get into an auto accident?
You call whoever your next appointment is with immediately, and you call your, yeah. So let's see, here's another, I'm gonna pass these down this row. Here's another one that I'm just gonna bring up. This one talks about open-ended questions. If you've been through any of Santa's True stuff, this is the character content. So the 4 typical questions. What's your name? How old are you? Have you been good? And what do you want for Christmas? The usual questions. Only the last one of those is open-ended. All the others have one-word answers. So do you want to ask the questions in a different way? Now, if you're somewhere where you need to move through children, you may want there is only one answer and move on. But you also can find yourself at an event, you're doing a family event, there are 8 kids and you're there for an hour. And the parents want to hear their children interact with Santa. So how do you change that discussion? What do you do that's different? So think about them and ask them as an open-ended question. Anything that asks for an opinion. What's your favorite Christmas food? What's your favorite Christmas song? What's your favorite Christmas movie? They all look at me weird because my favorite Christmas movie is still, I don't even know if it's really a Christmas movie. You tell me. White Christmas. White Christmas is still my absolute favorite, personally. But prime the questions with positive spin. What marvelous things have you been up to this holiday season? So it's those kinds of things. If you'll take a look at those and pass them around and take a look. This section is on working on your improvisation. And this is one that is great for an environment like this. I'm going to call on Rick and we'll see what we can do here. We're going to an improvisation exercise. 2 people take turns reciting the names of the reindeer, alternating back and forth between each other. After the first set, switch so that the other person starts. So, Dasher,
Dancer,
Prancer,
Vixen,
Comet,
Cupid,
Donder.
Blitzen,
Excellent. So if you
Rudolph.
Yes, there is. Actually, on this one, he's got it as both as Rudolph, which is wonderful. And so that is just, one of those exercises to keep it going. I have to admit that this time of year, I tend to go through the reindeer names while I'm walking my dog. Now, I get upset with the dog when he stops for no apparent reason, which he does somewhat regularly, just standing here. But I do the same thing to him, and it's usually when I'm going through and one of the reindeer names goes, oh. It's like, Dasher, where did it go? And that's exactly why I'm practicing and doing them then.
I thought you were going to say you named your dog Donder, and you always stop.
No. He came with the name of Bosco, and we decided to leave him with the name of Bosco. We thought we didn't want to confuse the new adoptee to the household after his rescue. Something that I do want to point out that I heard the other day on a similar vein as far as the practicing back and forth with the reindeer names is I was on one of Santa Ed's classes, the Worldwide Santa Claus Network, and we were talking about exiting from an event. And this one I hadn't heard before, and I really liked it. And it's for a larger event. And what the Santa said that he does in those larger events is he will, as he's working his way through the group to get out, he'll start with somebody and point at him and say, on, and then mouth Dasher, and get them to call it out, and then work through the group, calling out to people to call out the reindeer names as he exits the group. Now, he's a fan of doing this at stuff where it was a tree lighting or something of that nature, and you can get a bit of that competition going on back and forth. So I just thought it was a good thing to point out as an option. And the deck continues on with some things that are simply you practicing and you working on things yourself. Working on your smile. Making sure that you can hold that smile for the entire event of whatever that event is. So I will, you stab and peek, I will leave the rest of the deck up here. So if anybody wants to take a look at more of the deck than what got passed around at the table that you're at, it is a very handy thing to have. We're not really in a format here at the moment to say, hey, each table, work on this. But you can do it with others, or you can do it by yourself based on what the information is and what's being asked. I'm sure every single one of us will, if you go through this deck, will come up with, hey, what about? I'm impressed that there are 52 that are laid out and ready to go. And if you have others where you're what about, absolutely, there are 2 blank cards, so you can create some of your own. There are always joker cards, so I just want to go over these really quick. So this joker, which of course has Krampus artwork on it, is hard questions. Why is my family member, friend, pet gone, and can you bring them back? I don't get that one every year, but I have gotten it twice in the 4 years I've been Santa. And it's always been a family member that's been lost, and it's always been a difficult one to deal with, and I will tell you where I go with it. And that is that I don't have that capability. What I do know is that I know a lot of people and a lot of other beings out there who can see if your grandmother or whoever can come and visit you in your dreams. She really wants to see you, or you really need to see her. We'll see if we can arrange it so that she can reach out to you in your dreams. The other one, and this one I tend to use with adults, you use it if you like, and that is to talk about remembering this last one that happened to me was a father. It was a woman in her 30s who lost her father. It'd been a progressive illness, so they knew that he was going. But this was going to be her first Christmas without, and they always spent Christmas Day together. So what I talked to her about was, okay, when you get to that point where you are just really melancholy, sad, and blue about missing him, what I want you to do is I want you to think about when you were little and you sat in your father's lap and you held him. What did his heartbeat sound like? What did he smell like? What did it sound like when you had your ear against his chest and he talked to you? I want you to remember those feelings, because that's what's important about Christmas. Don't think about that he's gone, because we all go eventually. Think about all those wonderful times and what he meant to you. And I actually ran into the woman about a week after Christmas. And she thanked me for that, because she said Christmas morning about 9 o'clock in the morning, they'd done all their family Christmas stuff together. She was just having a cup of coffee and a Danish in the morning, and it just hit her that her dad was gone. And she went through this process to think about all of those things. And the reason I point that out is that it forces you to stop and think about, you have to work to get those memories. They're not usually right there. You got to work a little bit on those. And so they do force you to think about those good times. So I give that as my way to deal with that. Esther.
Well, and also, for instance, my dad liked pecan pie at the time. You know, not a lot of people like that.
Right.
But that was something he liked, and that's something I like, which we share. Food, favorite food, maybe his, like you said, you had the White Christmas. You watched White Christmas every year together when it came on TV.
Right.
And that kind of memory as well.
Yep.
Because and when you said she was sitting there drinking her coffee, maybe she can remember, you know, I had the pecan pie, reminded me of my dad, that was his favorite as well.
Yep.
He liked this movie where others didn't, but I really enjoyed that with my dad as well, you know. And anything, like you say, movies or something that you ate, or when he went shopping, he turned on all the toys. And you know what aisle he was on, because he was turning on all the toys as they were going on, you know, that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, do whatever works for you, and sometimes you will be prompted by a higher power. At least it seems to me, by some higher power to say to this individual, okay, remember these kinds of things. Think about these things with your father, or simply ask, what were your favorite things you did with your dad? You know, it might be the fondest memory is fishing together, you know. So think about those things, and those are great ones to keep in mind so that you're not unprepared should something happen. And then one of the other ones on this one is another tough one. Why can't I have something I need for Christmas, such as a new kidney, a computer for school, a job for your parent, those kinds of things. And I try not to fall back to the I'm a toy maker personally, but I do say that what I can do is limited. And go through the conversation from there. I don't have anything that I would call a great, wonderful response to I need a kidney. You know, I haven't experienced that either personally with someone who had to deal with that, or with a child asking me that. So I don't have a great one for that one. The other joker is just some things to think about again. How are you going to deal with the screaming child. The parents who want the picture anyway, even though the child clearly does not want to be close to you. Inappropriate contact from someone at a Christmas event. And we mean by them contacting you, not the other way around, which is still inappropriate, and don't do that. But I as Santa have been patted in places that I would not expect to have happen to Santa. Drunks. Now I've been lucky so far in all the private parties that I've done where there was somebody, heavily intoxicated. The rest of the party took care of that individual as far as their inappropriate behavior and keeping them away from Santa. But I'm sure that it's going to happen at some point where I'm going to have to deal with that one. This one I've been fortunate and not had to deal with either. Someone taking your things. So I don't know how many of you as Santas show up with an assortment of stuff depending on what you're doing. I typically, for a house party, I will typically have whatever toy bags I need for the event to distribute toys, and then either in the bottom of that one or in a different bag, I will have, if I'm reading a book. If I'm doing Polar Express and I have a magic bag, so you have 2 compartments with bells in it, and you got one side with the bells with no bean in it, and the other side is the bells with the beans. And so I will carry some of that kind of stuff, the train whistle, some of that kind of stuff. I've never had any of that disappear, but I also have a much bigger bag for when I do really large events where I think I'm going to have props for maybe 5 or 6 different stories. And so I have a lot more stuff in that bag. And it is more one of the, little tow behind rolling tool bags. I've had that at a couple events, and I've never had any trouble with it, so I don't have experience with that. But what would you do? How would you? Well, I go through all that now, I realize, you know what? I did have something disappear this year. A small child ran off with my hat at a large event. And I was headed for the door when it happened because I had another party that I needed to get to. Fortunately, I had everything else in the car for a whole nother suit. So I had another hat. So I simply talked to the person who had hired me for the party and asked that they collect it and get it back to me, call me, I would come by and pick it up, but I really had to go to this other event. And I had another hat. So I was able to deal with that one. They had the hat back for me the very next day. And I would hope it was because I did a wonderful job for them, not that they were embarrassed by the fact that one of the kids ran off with my hat. But best tip I ever got. When your tip is more than half of what your fee is, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, well, it just made me really glad that I had one, because it was one of those Saturdays where I was, going from gig to gig to gig, and I wasn't going to have a chance to deal with anything, and I really didn't want to show up without one. So those are just some of the things I wanted to point out on that. Do we have any of those sections of deck ready to come back? Has everybody had a chance to at least take a peek? At the CPW workshop, he will have these for sale. I don't know what they're for online. I know that he said that at the workshop they're discounted to $30. So I don't know if that means they're regularly 40 or 50. I'm going to guess somewhere in there. Do we have any over here? Post them over that way? Great. Okay.
Be forewarned, every one of those cards has low jack, so they will.